Joining me today is Duncan Ainscough, the Managing Director for Commercial and Industrial Assets in Europe. And he's based in the UK. How are you today, Duncan, this afternoon? I'm never good at this big 7 hours, 5 hours. I just can't do them.
I'm doing very well, David. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to our little chat.
Hey, you shared some information with me that you put together about the audiovisual sector, and this is in the COVID section. So let's talk about what's happening, because I find the opposite of what you would anticipate happening relative to these asset classes. So what's your perception on what's happening in the industry right now, audiovisual-wise?
Well, I mean, I've talked a lot, and you and I have talked on the IAA. We talk about asset values. It's a key hot topic for everybody. Everyone's trying to buy at the right price and also value at the right price, obviously. And I think we're seeing, some strange anomalies. We've got sectors like bus and coach, which essentially have disappeared because, well, no, the bus hasn't, but the coach market, as we call it, has disappeared because no one's taking tours. No, they're not taking old people on tours around the cities of Europe and things. And
all those coaches are sitting, and they're sitting there. Yeah, sitting.
I know banks have got 180 of them parked up in the UK. It's probably more, but I mean that's just one case. I know there's similar numbers, probably into the high hundreds in Spain as well. And so that market's essentially disappeared. But the real data source I want to talk to you about really is the audiovisual market, because we've actually had some real live events and big events in that space over the last month or so. And the audiovisual market obviously took a real, in terms of the UK market I'm talking here, it's in turmoil. These companies hired out equipment for events, concerts, sporting events, conferences.
And it's all cancelled.
It's all cancelled.
It's all
virtual. Yeah, it's all cancelled. And their income dried up. That's it. And they could take loans, but loans needed paying back.
They probably had loans to begin with.
Well, funnily enough, a couple of cases we worked on. Yes, there was banks involved, but there's always banks involved. Companies need the support. Lead liquidity. So it's interesting that this sector where we took a look at and we did our valuation. When insolvency comes in, the first thing you do for the administrator is do a valuation. And we looked at some of the numbers and we got quite nervous, I have to say, about reporting numbers. Because if you report a number to an administrator, you've got to achieve that. You can't get that wrong. And we had a situation where in one of the cases on the audiovisual side that the directors wanted to buy the business back, do a pre-pack effectively, and made an offer for the assets, shall we say. We took a look at it and thought, no, that's not enough. But bearing in mind, this was, in COVID, just after lockdown. We hadn't had any news about vaccine or anything. So this was really at the peak of what's going to happen. And Gordon Brothers being entrepreneurial and not minding risk, we said, no, we don't think that's a good enough offer. We're going to underwrite this for you. So we actually did a guarantee to an administrator, which is quite unusual in the UK. They don't normally do that. But they had this offer. They were unsure about whether to take it. So we said, no, we'll guarantee the realisation and we'll guarantee all the costs as well. That was one sale. In the meantime, we'd also been instructed on another sale. And I'm not going to give you the exact numbers here, David, but let's say one's, they're in the millions in terms of realisation. So, it's not...
They're big deals.
They're big deals. I think we ended up selling about 6,500 lots of AV equipment in a 6-week period. And they went absolute gangbuster. You could not believe the amount of interest we had in these sales.
So let me just feed this back. Here we are. We're in turmoil. There's absolutely zero demand for this equipment because the entire industry is decimated. Nobody's having a concert. Nobody's doing anything. All the theaters are closed. All the leasing companies that job this stuff out are all really, really hurting. You sell 6,000 lots into this industry.
Yeah.
And it kicks butt.
It went. One sale was double estimate, and the other sale, I have to say, almost embarrassingly, was 3.5 times what we thought it was worth. Now, we had in one sale 1,700 bidders. 1,700 bidders from 35
I've got a stat
countries.
here, and your 2020 average for that type of a sale was 223 buyers. Bidders. I mean, and then your November 2020 stats are 1,787 bidders.
Yeah.
So
sorry, David, to cut across you, but in the best will in the world, you'd say on a really good day, 500 or 600 bidders would be a fantastic, attendance at an auction sale.
I agree. That's an extraordinary number.
Yeah. So
we're getting similar results in the United States with regard to participation and values continue to remain strong in sectors that don't make sense. And it's very difficult to point and put a finger on it because it's seemingly in every industry, right? Some are obviously bad. I mean, you haven't sold a motor coach, right? So I would think that might be a little different. Plus, those are really expensive assets. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars for a coach, where you're talking about a couple $3,000 for a soundboard. I'm making these numbers up. Go ahead.
Let me give you some context to that, though. So numbers are, and it's important, and it's a very valid point, David, is that, you know, a coach which would be worth 160, 170,000 pounds, let's talk pounds, they had 168 of them, I think. They sold 2 or 3 at about 100,000, and then the rest, now they're just holding. They're just going to hold because there's no other buyers out there for them. Now, where they found those buyers for 2 or 3, I don't know, but that gives you an idea. Yes, you are talking difference. A Soundex and a coach, we're talking different assets. But you know, still, some of this equipment was very high. I think the highest value lot was over £100,000 for a single lot. So it wasn't just, you know, it wasn't just the old lamp and mic. It was everything, the whole gamut of audio visual.
Wow. Fascinating numbers.
Sorry, David, just to cut across you, I'm sure you can edit me out if I'm gabbling too much. The other interesting thing is, and it's something that we do measure here, is sell-through. So 99% of it sold and 99% of it got paid for.
That's fabulous. Those are huge numbers. And to
numbers.
those in the auction industry that are watching this, you know, we all love when a sale happens like that, and everybody's paying. So that's great. Duncan, thanks for joining me today.
No problem.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.